Welcome back to the final County Commissioners Corner for 2019, December 2019. Again, Scott Vargo, Thomas Davidson, and Elizabeth Lawrence, your two county commissioners, and me. We're going to talk now about Mountain Towns 2030. So really briefly, Elizabeth, you want to talk about what that is?
Mountain Town 2030 is a conference that Summit County government went to in October in Park City, and Park City put it together, invited Summit County, all the towns, so Breckenridge, Silverthorne, Frisco all went, along with High Country Conservation Center. We had Eagle County go. So basically all mountain ski resort towns in the West. We had a few from the East Coast got together and really set out to set our own goals when it comes to climate change in mountain communities, because we're going to be the most affected by this as we're so dependent upon snow in our economy. And got together, really, really enlightening, and basically, we're going to host it next year here in Summit County. It's going to be in Breckenridge.
Who came up with the idea that they wanted to host the event, Elizabeth?
Late September, early October of next year. This past year, we were lucky enough to hear Jane Goodall speak. It was really wonderful.
That was good.
Paul Hawken, who wrote the book Drawdown, which I'd encourage any of you to get that book on Amazon or wherever you buy books. At Next Page in Frisco, they can order it as well.
Right.
And it's going to be our Summit Reads book, I believe, of 2020.
That's our hope, yes.
Yeah, that's our hope. We're working on that. And
so our libraries will have it, right?
Libraries will have it. It'll be, our library already has it.
Yep.
Has a pretty long wait list on it, in
Does
fact. But we might have to
Okay.
get them a few more copies. But
Right.
it's a really great book to talk about how we can, the effects of climate change and what we can do and what makes the most sense. And it's a surprising list, actually. And so a lot of the conference is based off that. So we're going to host it here next year in partnership with ski areas, because they're big energy users, but they also are committed to the environment because it's good for their business and their employees and their guests, etc. So lots more to come on that.
Do you want to mention the speaker that's going to be coming in January that we saw in
Great
Park
idea.
City?
So Rob Davies is coming on January 24th, which is a Friday evening. He is coming to CMC in Breckenridge, and he's going to speak. His talk is called Disruption. He's a doctorate professor at University of Utah, and really is an expert in climate change and rising temperature and what it means for out west and in ski areas and across the world. So he's going to give a great talk January 24th, 7 p.m. at CMC in Breckenridge.
Great.
We're really excited. It's open to the community, and it's kind of going to kick off Mountain Towns 2030 here in Summit County throughout the year. Again, put on by all the towns, us, and High Country Conservation Center, and we're very excited to have that.
Yeah.
Great.
And
Great.
good. I will tell you the talk is a little depressing, but we're going to have HC3 there to talk about what you can do to make some.
Right, and building hope to counsel people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Because it's overwhelming at times, right? The information that is being given and just the.
But Thomas, you
the
really
science
said
around
it best after our conference, when you really talked about it puts a new lens on how we do things here in Summit County and everything we do, and it really does. And it was a wake-up call where you've obviously been committed to the environment. Our voters are, residents of Summit County have told us that, but it's really a wake-up call for us and a new way of looking at things and a call to action.
Right, absolutely. All right, we're going to change gears. There have been a fair number of discussions and comments recently around Summit Stage and some route changes at the Summit Stage, some challenges around hiring that we've had.
Sure.
There have been discussions around wages and what are we paying our drivers and so on. There are more than one factor that is driving our ability or challenge associated with hiring some drivers that have resulted in some of those route cuts.
Yep.
Some of it is always going to come down to pay. Some of it is going to come down to housing costs. Some of it is going to come down to regulatory requirements for folks that are driving big buses.
Regular drug tests.
Yes, regular drug tests that are required for folks that have CDLs that's a challenge across the state of Colorado.
Not just here.
But certainly here as well. And so those are some of the challenges. I think we just want to talk a little bit about what we're doing to try to address some of those concerns and trying to get fully staffed and trying to get those routes back up and in place.
Yeah. So there's a union that represents our drivers. And so we have negotiations and we have a contract with them. And that's what determines how compensation works. We're reopening this with the union a year early.
Yep.
Actually, we'd reopened it once before inside this contract to adjust that compensation, and now we're doing it again
Correct.
a year early.
Yep.
Those conversations have been going well with the union. And so one of the things that we're looking to do is get that contract changed so that we can provide better compensation to drivers.
Yep. It's important to note that, again, that's a two-way conversation. So the county can't just unilaterally go in and make certain changes to that agreement. It's something that is collectively bargained. And as Thomas said, those conversations are going well. And we hope to have some agreement with the union in place, hopefully before the end of this year. So,
Yeah.
All right, so we'll step away from that one and move quickly into minimum wage, which is also somewhat related, both wage-related topics. So you may recall that some time ago there were discussions about whether or not the local jurisdictions here, the county and the towns, should consider an adjustment to the minimum wage here locally. That was new authority. Again, something that Thomas worked on in his Commissioner of the Year to gain additional authorities for counties and towns in that area. There were discussions at the county commissioner level about perhaps putting together a vote that would gauge the level of public interest in the topic. Rather than doing that, there was a work group that was formed, and so I was the proud facilitator of that work group, and we've now gone through a series of 5 meetings with lots of different members of the community, done some surveying, and I'll turn it over to you guys now to talk a little bit about how those meetings went.
Yeah, the work group came together really quickly. We had representatives from all of our towns, both town staff and electeds, as well as from our lodging community, restaurant, ski areas. We had our builders community, Summit County Builders Association was part of it. We had some of our nonprofit representatives there from FERC, that's working on the front lines with a lot of lower wage people. So it was a good group. Now, we didn't have a lot of employees. We had a couple come from meeting to meeting, but we didn't have a consistent representation of lower level employees. And that was tough to get, but the group going into it and coming out of it was still really split on some of the best ways to move forward on it. And I think it's just a contentious topic, and it really asks some questions. What are we talking about? A living wage or a minimum wage? And there's a lot of work that's been done to know what it is for someone to be sustainable, self-sufficiency index here in Summit County. And so we didn't get into that as much, but that is what it sort of leads into. And so, Thomas, share your thoughts for sure.
Yeah, I think that the work groups, while conversation was contentious, you've got some number of people that just philosophically don't think that government should be involved in setting a minimum wage. I have news for you. We've been doing that for many decades. And the voters of Colorado just recently, did that, and we're about to go to the last step in a statewide increase in minimum wage. That takes effect here January 1 of 2020. So January 1 of 2020, the statewide minimum wage for a non-tipped position will be $12 an hour. The statewide minimum wage for a tipped position will be $3.02 less than $12 an hour, because that's what the Constitution now says minimum wages will be. Summit County, as you all know, has a high cost of living. And we've got lots of employees that get paid entry-level wages, minimum wages. And so makes a lot of sense to have a conversation about, okay, should jurisdictions use this new tool in the toolbox or not? And what are all of the impacts that go along with that? And so I would say that these work group meetings have started that conversation. I wouldn't say that we've finished that conversation by any means, right? I think that there's a lot more that we have to talk about with regards to this. But I do think that it's something that we should be, as elected leaders, focused on, working on, studying, right? You've got a new tool in the toolbox. Do you want to use it or not? If you are going to use it, how are you going to use it? I think it's interesting to see that over in Pitkin County in Aspen, the ski company over there just decided to go ahead and move minimum wage to $15 an hour. I think that was not necessarily a coincidence, given this new authority that state legislature gave to local jurisdictions. So we've got more to come. One of the things that we were all happy to see is, given the fact that we couldn't get employees to come to these meetings, and I get it, right? They working a lot of hours, their time is valuable. We put a survey out there online and we got an overwhelming response. So, of course, lots of our entry-level employees are telling us that the cost of housing, the cost of childcare, the cost of health care, the cost of everything up here is really challenging given what they get paid. So, one path might be, okay, we've got to do an even better job with entry-level housing. Or we've got to do an even better job with regards to providing affordable health care. But I think that there's also the possibility that we should look at asking all employers to do something with us and help with us in terms of high cost of living and what people get paid, and providing a minimum wage or a living wage that makes some sense given what costs are up here. So a lot more to come on this. It is for sure really controversial. And one of the things that is frustrating is the restaurant industry up here is really hard pressed to see continued increases in tipped minimum wage, given the fact that a lot of waiters up here do really well.
Yeah.
We heard time and time again, we really need to figure out how we do a better job with the back of the house. And so, but I'm proud of the community up here for having intelligent conversation about it. And even though it may be controversial, I think that we're being responsible and talking it through. And as far as I'm concerned, I think that we're going to continue to have more conversations about it and study it more.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that we've really tried to be collaborative with the other towns, because they could set their own wage, we could set our own wage, but really trying to be methodical and work with them, because there could be a number of unintended consequences if we had multiple wages here in the county, and working with them and understanding where they're coming from and sharing where we're coming from as well. So it's really a collaborative effort here. It's not a perfectly written law. There are some issues with it for sure, and just depends how we're going to go forward.
Yeah.
So from a timing perspective, again, we'll be putting together a report essentially of the efforts and the activities of that work group. There'll be a work session with the county commissioners on January the 7th, where we'll go through that information, begin the conversation or continue the conversation there. And then we'll get some direction from the county commissioners as to what next steps look like. What do they want staff to do? What would they like to see, if anything else or different from the community on the topic? So that's the next step in that process.
Yeah.
So, all right. Second to last item that we wanted to cover was childcare. So again, a question that that was passed a year ago. That as part of Strong Future provided some funding for childcare facilities. We've been talking for a while with the town of Silverthorne about a facility in that part of the county, and we had a great joint meeting with them just within the last few weeks. You want to talk a little bit about that, Elizabeth?
Sure. So we're waiting on town of Silverthorne to pick the location. They have a couple of great spots, and I'm really excited that we're going to have, because right now there's not a licensed large child care center in Silverthorne.
Yeah.
Closest one is in Dillon or Frisco. So it's really exciting that we're going to have this. I could not be more pleased to partner with Town of Silverthorne on this. They're having more and more families there. It's a great need, we know. And so working together, Town of Silverthorne will be providing some ongoing operating funding to this center, which is very, very important because no one is making money in child care centers.
Yeah.
It will run as a nonprofit. So it's really going to be a huge benefit to people living on that side of the county. Now, it will not solve all our child care issues. This is just one center, but it will take some of the pressure off Dillon, Frisco, and Breckenridge, that they're the only ones right now. If you live and work in Silverthorne, you're often still driving your child to one of these other towns, which is inefficient and a number of other issues. And so we're looking forward to partnering with them. We'll be started on design and lots of things here soon. But also we're working on a few others with some of that fund. So Lake Dillon Preschool, we're working on a remodel there to add an additional classroom. I think when it's all said and done, we'll have about 16 more slots in total, which will be great. We've done a very small project with Carriage House Early Learning Center in Breckenridge that we've been working on some upgrades there. And again, we're just trying to expand capacity where we can. And there might be a potential partnership opportunity for us in the town of Breckenridge for maybe another infant spot, or maybe they might build a new school. We're waiting to hear. We'll have a joint meeting with them in January. But how we can continue to be a partner, because we know that this is an important issue in our community.
Yeah, but a big shout out to the town of Silverthorne for really stepping up.
Yes.
That was a really productive joint meeting that we had with them. You know, they'll be providing the land for free. They'll, as Elizabeth said, they'll be providing ongoing funding, and they really kind of are stepping into the driver's seat with regards to architecture and design and a bunch of other things. And so couldn't be happier to be, you know, partnering with Town of Silverthorne on this project. Really exciting.
I was proud to hear the support from their council and how they recognize that childcare is a community problem for all communities in Summit County, and it's time to do something.
It's great to see that moving forward.
Yeah, proud of them.
The last thing that we wanted to mention is we're taping the show on Monday, December the 9th, and just this past weekend there was a death within our community of one of the firefighters from Summit Fire and EMS, and so we just want to express our heartfelt condolences, our sympathies to the family, to all of the folks that work within that fire and EMS community and public safety community within Summit County. Just a tragic loss for all of us, and our thoughts go out to them.
Yeah.
So with that, we will say goodbye, and we'll be back again next year.